Our opening words are from Reverend William F. Scholz. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. We light our chalice today in the spirit of unlearning what we don't want and learning what we do. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in our opening hymn, number "As Long as I Have Breath."
Good morning. My name is Lori Carafone, and I am your worship associate today. My pronouns are she, her. Tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary of signing the membership book here at All Souls. It's easy for me to remember this day because it's also my birthday. I'm grateful to be here with you, sharing in spiritual sustenance. If you're visiting us for the first time or still feel new here, please raise your hand so that we can give you an All Souls welcome. If you're in the sanctuary, the order of service is available in printed form from the ushers or on your phone by using the QR code in the pews. For those on Zoom, a link to the order of service is in the chat. Our weekly email bulletin is a great way to find out the latest news. Sign up through the link on the All Souls homepage. All Souls recognizes that our city and our church were built on lands taken from indigenous people. We lament this injustice. The closest village to our church site was Nacotchtank, from which the name Anacostia is derived. The residents were part of the Piscataway tribe, still present in the DC and Maryland region today. For all of us who aren't native to this land, or the land where you reside around the world, one way to practice our commitment to the eighth principle is to go beyond acknowledgement and find out what Native organizing is happening in your area and how you can support it. Each week, we behold one another in person and virtually. If you are on Zoom, go to the gallery view and turn your camera on if you're willing and able. If you're in the sanctuary, we encourage you to get up now and move around as you are comfortable. Let's take time now to say hello and offer greetings.
Love it. Just a little one. Just a little.
Thank you. Let's continue our conversations and greetings after the service. Welcome to All Souls.
Hello, All Souls. I'm Reverend Bill Sinkford, your transitional minister this year. My pronouns are he and him. And first, I have a number of upcoming events for you to note. I want to encourage you to please check your order of service and the e-news and the website, because there are actually far too many events for us to highlight, each of them in worship. And I want to note that that's actually a very good thing. The energy in the church and the regathering is moving right along, and we're pleased that there is so much regathering taking place. This Wednesday, the young souls will have a potluck gathering and discussion with Paula Cole-Jones on the proposed new UUA language that may replace the principles. That's at 7:30 downstairs in the dining room. And everyone is invited to bring a dish to share and the recipe you used to make it to our new Welcoming Wednesdays drop-in gathering this week. That's on Wednesday. This is very much a family-friendly event. The children's and youth choirs will begin rehearsing again at the normal time this Tuesday. Yes? And if you are new or newish and would like to learn more about All Souls, plan to join our membership and communications manager, Rose Eaton, next Sunday at noon here at the church. There's also a Zoom option, and you can check the website calendar for that. The following week, September 26th and through 28th, All Souls is hosting a major advocacy conference called Farming for the Future: Systematic Changes for the Climate Crisis. And I know that here in the city, we do not often think about farming's role in the climate crisis, but there are things that we need to learn and advocacy that we need to do. This conference is a partnership of UU's for Just Economic Community, UU's for Social Justice, and UU Ministry for Earth. You can go to the church website to learn more about this and to register. And finally, this sanctuary and these buildings are beloved places for many of us. But there are significant building repair issues that the congregation needs to address. Water infiltration downstairs, deterioration to the bell tower structure. There's a reason that that black netting is outside the front of the building. We're launching a feasibility study to share what we have learned, which is actually quite a lot, and explore the congregation's readiness to raise the funds to make the needed repairs. The consultants who will be leading the feasibility study will be with us next weekend, and there will be an information session after worship right here in the sanctuary. So please mark your calendars, either your physical ones or your mental calendars, and I hope that many of you will plan to attend. That's next Sunday, right after worship. Many things to note, I know, all important, and all part of the ministry in this spirit-growing, justice-seeking religious community committed to becoming beloved community. We turn now to the concerns we need to hold today and to hold this week. First, a celebration. Many congratulations to Genevieve Jenna Koulis and Lahosai Franco, who were married on September 2nd, right here in this sanctuary. We wish them much joy on their journey together. Congratulations to Jenna's proud parents, Bill Koulis and Julia Washburn, as well. Julia and Bill will be relocating to Western Massachusetts later this fall, so we're sending good wishes to them for all the transitions that are underway in their lives and the life of their family. And a loss to share. We send condolences and love to the many friends of Judy Lever, who are grieving her unexpected death in England on September 10th. Our hearts are also with Kevin and Chris Lever, her sons in Oklahoma, who are currently managing a very challenging season of making arrangements. Judy had been on a walking trip with dear companions and visited a close friend the day of her death. Her enthusiasm for life, her caring spirit, and her wry humor are already being missed by all who loved her. A celebration of life will be held at All Souls in the coming months, as well as observations of her life in Oklahoma and in Florida. I invite you now to speak the names of those you are holding with special care this morning into the silence, or to add them to the chat if you're with us on Zoom. For the names spoken and for those that remain unspoken, we open our hearts to hold them all. Rosh Hashanah, New Year in the Jewish traditions, concludes this evening. The Torah describes this as the time when God judges each of us, but those judgments are not sealed until Yom Kippur. There is a week when we can ask for and grant forgiveness to ourselves and to others. This coming week, there is time for us to begin again in love. Will you pray with me now? Spirit of life and of love, great mystery at the heart of things, be with us today. Move within us. Move among us. In this season of change, help us forgive ourselves and forgive those who journey with us. Help us to indeed begin again in love. There is much that we are called to hold in these days. Joy as well as sorrow, goodness as well as grief and loss. Help us hold our hearts open so that there is space in our hearts for compassion, even for ourselves. Help us hold our hearts open so that we can feel your presence holding us just as we hold so much. Our prayer is a prayer for presence and the hope presence can make real in our lives and even in our world. May that be so. Ashe and amen.
Amen. Our reading today is Radical Gratitude Spell by Adrienne Marie Brown. A spell to cast upon meeting a stranger, comrade, or friend working for social and/or environmental justice and liberation. You are a miracle walking. I greet you with wonder in a world which seeks to own your joy and your imagination. You have chosen to be free every day as a practice. I can never know the struggles you went through to get here, but I know you have swum upstream, and at times it has been lonely. I want you to know I honor the choices you made in solitude, and I honor the work you have done to belong. I honor your commitment to that which is greater than yourself and your journey to love the particular container of life that is you. You are enough. Your work is enough. You are needed. Your work is sacred. You are here, and I am grateful. In a sermon at one of the major worship services at the Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly this past June in Pittsburgh, Reverend Chris Bice preached about the need for Unitarian Universalists to respond to the challenges of our time. Reverend Chris, who serves the Tennessee Valley UU Church in Knoxville, Tennessee, has a particularly sobering vantage point on this topic. In July 2008, just 15 years ago in July, a disgruntled man from the community brought in a shotgun and opened fire during an intergenerational worship service at that congregation. No children were hit, thankfully, but several adults were wounded and died, including a congregant named Greg McKendry, who put himself in the line of fire to protect others. The gunman had left a letter stating that, among other things, he was motivated by his hatred of liberals, Democrats, African Americans, and homosexuals. I've preached at that congregation, and there's a place on one of the walls in the sanctuary where they decided to leave some of the shotgun marks as a reminder. It's a very powerful visual of the stakes in this struggle. Beyond shootings, folks in states like Tennessee and many, many conservative states in this country are targets for multiple kinds of violence, whether it's active physical aggression or the more widespread systemic violence of legal, medical, and cultural oppression. Reverend Chris is widely known and respected for his incredible work in this arena, which goes far, far beyond the response to the shooting. He is an incredibly powerful and humble witness for our faith in a difficult state. The need to rise to these external challenges is certainly part of the larger context for his sermon, but as much as anything, he was focusing on the internal challenges facing many religious communities, including Unitarian Universalism. Some denominations have experienced enormous decline in the last decade or two in membership. Now, by that standard, ours has not been bad, but we have been steadily decreasing every year since 2010. And for all religious communities, as well as many other organizations and institutions in our society, we still do not know what the long-term impacts of the pandemic will be. We don't know and cannot know what our future holds. What we do know is that we cannot just keep doing the same things in the same ways. That approach was already failing before the pandemic, and it's certainly not going to work now. We have to do things differently in response to different challenges. The title and focus for my sermon today about embracing our own evolution comes from Reverend Chris's guidance on this point. He said, "In the Unitarian Universalist Church, we believe in evolution. Now we actually have to practice it. We have to adapt to change. We have to evolve." I'm going to say part of that again. We believe in evolution. Now we actually have to practice it. That phrase has stuck with me, and I suspect, and frankly, I hope that it sticks with you too. And of course, it begs the question, what does that look like? What does it mean to practice our own evolution? Now, before I go down that road, I want to zoom back to the larger context by way of some of our universalist theology. Specifically, our theological ancestors took issue with the use of hell and punishment as a motivating force for good behavior. In their analysis, the requirement of the scripture is to love God and to love your neighbor, not to save your own self. So if your motivation is based on fear, you are not authentically focused on loving God or loving your neighbor. You are trying to save your own butt. The parallel to our contemporary circumstances is that our primary motivation for change cannot simply be saving our denomination. It cannot be just the fear of loss. I think that can be part of it. It is certainly worthwhile to fight for the things that we care about, but we need to be grounded in a larger vision, an ethical calling that is greater than ourselves. At All Souls, I think we have that. The mission of our congregation is to, quote, create a diverse, spirit-growing, justice-seeking, beloved community that transforms ourselves and our world into one great family of all souls. That doesn't erase the fear, but it provides us with a clear and compelling picture of what we're trying to create. And it's true that here in Washington, D.C., we do not face the same challenges that they do in Texas and Alabama and Tennessee and other conservative states. But we still have a responsibility to do the work that is ours to do here. And so it begs the question, how do we do it? How do we practice evolution, as Reverend Bice invites? The first part of the answer, I think, is from one of the most accurate observations ever made about social justice work. It's from Audre Lorde, when she wrote, "For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change." In other words, if we want a liberating outcome, we have to use a liberating process. In the last few decades, based on my experience in multiple organizations and multiple congregations, I've come to this fundamental belief that transformation is inversely related to speed. The faster we are trying to go, the slower transformation happens. Because transformation is about trust, and it's about relationships, and it's about unlearning. And that simply doesn't happen when individuals and institutions are moving too quickly. When we are plunging forward on autopilot, it's difficult to even recognize the opportunities to do things differently, much less actually do them. And here's a hard truth, but I think an honest and necessary truth. One of the most consistent observations made about All Souls by people experienced with multiple congregations is that we try to do way too much. Of course, we want to be engaged with each other and have an impact on the world, and so many other things. It's very exciting to have all these activities about regathering. That is important, that is healthy, especially post-pandemic. And there is a threshold after which the sheer quantity and sheer momentum is at best no longer helpful and at worst actively problematic. I'm reminded of a moment from about 2 years ago, September 2021, that opened my eyes to this reality. A group of All Souls staff and racial justice leaders were meeting about the educational offerings we have related to racial justice transformation and adult spiritual development. In a relatively short amount of time, we had filled many easel pad sheets with the names of different committees and different groups and the different courses and the different activities and the gatherings and the communities they offered. And I happened to glance Reverend Bill's gaze, and the completely overwhelmed look on his face confirmed what I was feeling. It was all good, so good, but way too much. It was overwhelming. There was so much good intent, but it was so many groups doing so many different things and doing them independently. And with that moment, an idea started to grow. Could these efforts be consolidated and coordinated? I started to shop it around, and I talked to Paula Cole-Jones, already mentioned today, a many decades-long leader here at All Souls and throughout Unitarian Universalism on racial justice. And she was strongly supportive of the direction I wanted to go and why. But a very real question remained. Would the All Souls system allow us to do something radically different? Would people and groups let go of the old ways and be willing to take a different approach? The answer, thanks to the pandemic, I believe, and many other factors, was and is a resounding yes. Some groups were already actively trying to let go of some of their responsibilities because they simply didn't have the capacity anymore, and others were and are thrilled about the prospect of more alignment and coordination. The result of this effort is called Core Connections, and I am thrilled to say that it officially launches today. Core Connections is a comprehensive collaborative framework for how All Souls approaches education and transformation. It has a beautiful flyer. For the foreseeable future, we will use this to help guide and right-size what we're trying to do. The amazing folks on the Adult Spiritual Development Committee have overall responsibility for it, but it's in close collaboration with many other groups and staff, and that graphic illustrates beautifully how it all fits together. And as time goes on, you'll see more and more courses offered, all of which are directly tied to a core ministry of the church. And they all center around those three themes: relationships, spiritual grounding, and accountability. I think it's fairly obvious that spiritual deepening would be part of this, but we do have a slightly different take in that it's intended to be both an individual and a collective spiritual deepening, because we cannot fulfill the mission of the church if we are simply a grouping of individuals. We need to feel connected to and invested in each other at a spiritual level. As I said before, transformation requires trust, and trust requires relationship. Of course, that's always been part of what we do here at All Souls, but we are truly shifting things to center relationship fully. And that means even revising long-standing classes. The Roots and Wings class, for example, has previously been only for newcomers. And it's been a lot about delivering information. We've retooled that so it's about relationship building and spiritual reflection. And now it's open to everyone, young, old, whether you're here for the first time or a longtime member, anywhere in between. It's a perfect entry point to Core Connections. Now, the third theme is accountability, and that's a serious word that can have many different meanings. So let me unpack that one just a bit. In the last few years, All Souls has been in the process of learning how to implement principles and practices from transformative justice into our congregational life. And I'm very, very moved and inspired by the definitions of accountability that have come from the transformative justice movement. Let me start by saying what it is not, which is essentially the reality that many of us have experienced our entire lives, which is that accountability is extremely hierarchical and involves people being punished for doing wrong. This model is replicated in nearly every institution in our society. As Jim Pastore said in a meeting recently, that's how it works in all of my TV shows. As it turns out that people being punished for doing wrong is more popular to watch than healthy conflict resolution. But what transformative justice invites us to do is to redefine accountability as taking responsibility for harm caused, restoring and deepening relationship, and mutual learning. That was an incredible breakthrough for me, that accountability is about learning, not punishment. And here's one of the other things about this transformative justice process that wasn't expected but makes total sense to me. One of our consultants in this work, M. Morrison, said that 90% of transformative justice work is preventative. It's about engaging low-level conflicts so they do not escalate. Only about 10% should be struggling through a serious conflict, which is very time and energy intensive. Now, as both psychology and common sense tell us, old habits are hard to break. And when we're talking about disrupting oppressive patterns of the dominant culture, I think we can be sure of these three things. First, it's going to take focus over time. 2, it's going to take practice. And 3, it needs to engage a lot of people. I really appreciate that Reverend Bice called us to practice our evolution. And it's one of the reasons Paula Cole-Jones was so supportive of the Core Connections approach. She and I strongly agree that this work of transformation requires not just work over time, but consistent work. In her experience, UUs have a fairly short attention span. We tend to do something for just a few years and then switch. So there's neither consistency in understanding nor a sufficient critical mass of people that are working in alignment. As such, the Core Connections approach will provide many of the same offerings again and again, some of them multiple times every church year. If you'd like to get a taste of it, I invite you to participate in the launch event today from 12:15 to 2:15, starting in the dining room. You'll hear a little bit more about the overall concept, but I think you probably get it by now. So most of the time will be in mini workshops, actually doing some of the work related to relationships, spiritual grounding, and accountability. And for folks that don't know, the dining room is out this way and down. It's right under Pierce Hall. It's a big building. Even I get turned around sometimes still. I want to close with what amounts essentially to just a brief personal testimony. The short story is that I wouldn't be here now or care about this work in the way I do, or perhaps even know about this work, if it hadn't been for my upbringing in Unitarian Universalism. The first place I ever learned about racism that I can remember was my church, my Unitarian church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The place I learned about healthy sexuality was my church. The place I learned about how to recognize and confront sexism, homophobia and transphobia was UU Youth and Young Adult Conferences. The place where I learned to recognize and confront institutional racism was our faith community. It invited me to evolve. It helped me to evolve. And God willing, it still is helping me to evolve. And not out of fear, but out of love, out of relationships and spiritual grounding and the best kind of accountability in community, with purpose, with care, and with forgiveness. To paraphrase the closing words of our reading today, we are enough. Our work is enough. We are needed. Our work is sacred. We are here. And I am grateful.
Speaking of gratitude, I am very grateful that last week I had the opportunity to attend a 3-day contemplative retreat at the Santa Sabina Center in San Rafael, California. It was an opportunity to slow down and for reflection and writing. It was also an opportunity to enjoy immense natural beauty in a place that explicitly connects spirituality and stewardship of the earth. Around the center are photos of earth and of space, fully integrated with chapels, spiritual texts, and chalices. The Earth Charter hangs in the central courtyard there and declares, quote, "The protection of Earth's vitality, diversity, and beauty is a sacred trust." Our offering today speaks precisely to that sacred trust. Although most of our Share the Plate recipients are local organizations, we occasionally do others. For September, we will share donations with the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. The widespread damage of the fires was directly related to colonization and extractive agricultural practices that diverted water from natural ecosystems. Your gifts will go to a relief fund specifically dedicated to helping Native Hawaiians recover and rebuild. If you're in the sanctuary, the ushers will be passing the plates for our offering. You can also text All Souls by sending ASCU to 73256. And if you're on Zoom, click the link in the chat, which will direct you to All Souls online giving. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
Friends, I invite you to lean into your own evolution, whatever that looks like, and to be part of our collective evolution at All Souls and beyond. May we evolve together.